Tampa Bay is like no place else.
Wait, you can't recycle the bag? You have to throw it away.
Proper recycling keeps it that way for everyone. Bags tangle in machinery and can bring sorting efforts to a halt.
No bags.
Trash the bags and keep our recycling program moving forward.
No, Mom, look, no plastic bags.
Do your part to keep our recycling bag-free. Trash the tanglers or return them to participating retailers. For more information, visit tampabayrecycles.org.
Good morning. Welcome to the May 15, 2025 quarterly meeting of the Hillsborough County Tourist Development Council. This time we'll have a roll call vote to establish quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hagan?
Here.
Castor? Here. Antonaccio? Here. Collier?
Here.
Joe's virtual. Gonsmar Williams?
Here.
Kilton?
Here.
Mackinac?
Here.
Manthe?
Here.
Bob Morrison? Bob is with his son's college graduation today, and so he won't be joining us. Celebratory moment, I'm sure. Placencia?
Here virtually.
Lou Virtual, and Ross.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay. If everyone's had an opportunity to review the minutes, can we have a motion to approve February 13th, 2025 minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion, Ms. Gonsmar Williams, second. Mr. Placencia, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Would anyone like to speak during public comment?
I don't believe we have any.
Okay. Seeing none, Mr. Barton, you want to give us an administrative report?
Thank you. If you will, just refer to your tab of the quarterly financials. This is the second quarter or mid-year financials for both the 3 cent and also the 6 cent. The primary message is revenues are still very strong. They're growing. We'll show a graph in a few seconds here that the last reported month was down into the normal growth range versus the extraordinary growth. But revenues continue to be strong, and as you all know, all of our expenditures are predicated on contract agreements, and so they're typically pro rata with some exceptions in terms of payments out. So we still have, favorable balance on the revenues over expenses. And if you turn to the back page of that first one, you'll see the 6th cent. And again, same favorable revenues. The issue there, as we have explained before, under the third category of expenses, cultural and attraction-based capital and infrastructure, we book the encumbered amounts that come out of the application process. And so that number that you see there, $3.6 million, is related to that. And as we've mentioned many times, we have a contractual relationship with the city of Tampa on their convention center expansion, and that's the $2 million. And that's a matching with the city. Next page, you'll see the collections data for the 1 through 6. And as I mentioned, the last month in April, we had a 3.9%. But year to date, we're still running at a little over 17% above prior year on revenue. If you turn to the next page, that's just the 1 through 3 cents by itself. And then the next page is the 6 cent. Obviously, the growth rates are all going to be the same, irrespective. And then the last chart is the graphic that shows the last 4 years, including current. And of course, you see the favorable revenue trend that we continue to experience. And so we have taken that into account. I'll talk a little bit about that when we discuss the projected budget. And I'll talk about some assumptions that we've made associated with that. But that's my report, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. Do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Barton? All right, seeing none, can we have a motion to accept the report? Motion, Mayor Kilton. Second, Mr. Antonacio. Sorry about that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Next, we have a report on the indoor sports facility.
Yes, if I could, I'll tee it up, and then we have a stellar group of Greg Hordell and Eric Hart and Rob with us. But just last board meeting, there was a presentation made to the Board of County Commissioners related to the proposed sports facilities, both an indoor and an outdoor, in which we've had consultants been engaged in advising both the county and TSA, and an update report was made to the board, and I thought it was a good opportunity and a good time to bring that same report to the TDC, and so our folks have graciously agreed to do a command performance. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. I'm not sure it's a command performance, but we're happy to present this.
I think it was a command performance. You guys did a great job.
We appreciate the opportunity to present this information. We think that this is a unique opportunity for Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa, and frankly, all of our jurisdictions as we attract more people into the county based upon sports tourism. About just a little bit of table setting before I turn it over to Rob Higgins so that he can outline the two reports that we received last summer from our consultants on these two projects. We're talking specifically about the indoor sports facility, but we did have another project that was baseball related. This particular opportunity is for indoor sports. It is located on the county's Mosey site, that is in the city of Tampa. So we'll be working closely with the city and our selected development group to ensure that this process moves forward. The recommendation of staff at this point is to continue with the Mosey property. However, I would note, and you'll see in this presentation, there is another opportunity that we haven't closed the door on. It does involve the participation of the private sector. However, we think at this stage, we don't have a lot of detail on that, so we are keeping the door open, but we just don't have enough information to be able to present to you and talk about what option that might present for Hillsborough County. About a year ago, we had presentations from the consultants on these. They, as you can recall, back approximately 5 years ago, a little longer than that, we had another opportunity for a tournament sports facility on Columbus Drive, and the county did pursue that. It has performed very, very well. We will be talking a little bit more about that, I'm sure, and how that then factored into this decision to move forward with a report to the board and ultimately bringing back to our Board of County Commissioners a plan that would move that project forward. So with that, to highlight the report that we relied on to bring this forward to the Board of County Commissioners, I'd like to bring Rob Higgins up, and following him, John Mueller, our Director of Facilities and Real Estate, will go through a PowerPoint presentation and will outline for you the same things that we outlined for our Board of County Commissioners as to the opportunities that we believe this presents for Hillsborough County. So with that, Rob.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Rob Higgins, Executive Director of the Tampa Bay Sports Commission. As always, just wanted to start with a sincere thank you. We could not be more grateful for everything you guys do to support our organization and sports tourism in general. There's no doubt that we can't do what we do without you and your continued vision and investment in making this the absolute best place to recruit and host sports and entertainment events. I'll be brief, but just wanted to touch upon, as Greg mentioned, the success of the tournament sportsplex, as well as a couple of the consultants' reports related to these two potential facilities. First, when it comes to the tournament sportsplex, just as a refresher, before that facility was not only decided upon, but then eventually built, there was a pre-construction feasibility study that was done. We since have made sure that we continue to benchmark against those numbers so that we can ensure the return on investment when it comes to the overall decision that was made by this board as well as the Board of County Commissioners. That report for the tournament sportsplex predicted that through the first 5 years of the facility that we would host 150 events. Now, as we look 5 years later, it actually has hosted 161 events. More importantly than the number of events, the report predicted that the facility would generate over 151,000 hotel visitor room nights. I'm pleased to share now that the facility has been in existence for more than 5 years, compared to that 151,000 prediction, the sportsplex actually generated 218,327 hotel visitor room nights, which is a 44% increase over what was projected. I'll share with you in year 5 alone that the facility generated over 75,000 hotel visitor room nights. And then now through just the first 2 quarters of this year, it's already done 85,000 hotel visitor room nights. So certainly, not only was it predicted to be a big success by a reputable third party, but it's ended up being a huge success, and even more so than what was projected. A couple other helpful stats: 372,000 attendees through the first 5 years, 174,000 of which were from out of town. Nearly $2 million in bed tax alone was generated from the events that came in the first 5 years. And it's also a great balance. While we always focus obviously on the economics when it comes to tourism, it's also been a great balance of our own communities, kids having a chance to have home field advantage and then save the money that they would have spent traveling someplace else for a tournament. Now, when you look at these other 2 potential facilities, we've had consultants, 2 different consultants, look at these facilities. The consultant related to the indoor sportsplex is predicting 169 events that will generate over 181,000 visitor room nights. And then for the outdoor facility, the baseball softball complex, they're predicting a range of 145 to 152 events that would result in 171,000 to 215,000 hotel visitor room nights. I bring up all these statistics related to the reports, whether it be the sportsplex, the indoor facility, or the baseball softball facility, because in a lot of other communities, no disrespect to them, there's these pre-construction feasibility studies that are used to get decision makers such as yourself and the Board of County Commissioners on board to support a project, and then those studies go on a shelf somewhere to collect dust and nobody ever looks at them again. It's really this field of dreams mentality. If you build it, they will come. Here, again, we hold ourselves accountable to these numbers and want to make sure that the continued return on investment is being maximized by all the different parties. So with that, I'll turn it over to John to share his presentation on each of the facilities. First, any questions from my end at all?
Thanks for asking, Rob.
Yeah.
I maybe I should know this, but with the data with the sports complex, after that many years, how, when the consultant, crushed those numbers, do you have any idea how they come to that conclusion? Is it tournament? Are there special pricing on hotel rooms for tournaments? And then also, did the original sports complex result in other hotels being built in that area? And do we expect that as well with the future site at Mosey?
Yeah, I can speak to the first one. I would defer to the rest of the group in terms of hotel development. Certainly, I think it's only helped enhance and fill those hotels, but then we see the compression out to the rest of the community based off where people want to stay. But I think we've seen throughout, if anything, our numbers are very conservative. We work with each of our hotel partners and event organizers, many of which have mechanisms in place where you can't participate in the tournament without staying at the hotel blocks that have been established. So we're really confident in terms of these numbers and how well they've performed. Every single one of our files and room nights are audited after the fact to ensure that they're right. And so, if anything, I think there's a lot of ancillary activity taking place at the hotels that's not being captured. We want to make sure our information is as bulletproof as possible so that the true return on investment can be studied. That's right. That's right.
And before John comes up, I want to echo what Rob said, and I was going to make some of these comments when they're done. But years ago, when I brought this forward, I discussed the economic and quality of life benefits of sports tourism because that's what the experts told me. Fast forward 10 years, and after 9 years of my daughter playing travel softball, I felt it in the pocketbook. And it's real money that's spent. It's big business. And I disagree with the approach that we use a lot of times, but because it's so conservative in that, number one, we don't capture the spending outside of, like when we go out of town, we're eating at Outback, we're eating at Beef O'Brady's, we're spending money, probably an average of $500 to $1,000 in addition to the hotels. We're not capturing that revenue. So there's a significant amount of sales tax revenue generated beyond the numbers that we show. They like to be extremely conservative and essentially based on numbers that they can quantify, but they don't capture all the numbers because, again, from experience, some tournaments make you stay in the room block, some don't. And so a lot of families will look for, I mean, you like to stay with the team when you can, but a lot of families will look for the best deal, or they'll go through Expedia and not book through the room block. We don't capture any of those rooms. So I would imagine there's probably 20% at least room nights that are generated that are not in these reports. So it's nice to just know that we do have a conservative forecast because, as we know, there are all kind of haters out there that want to shoot bullets and throw darts at any type of government-funded facility. But we're overly conservative, and I think, I mean, Eric would tell you, the last couple of years, the tournament sportsplex has been so successful, we can say that it's actually paid for itself operationally because of the revenue generated at the facility and the dollars raised through the hotel room nights. So
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would love to just piggyback real quick is just the fact that we're in such an amazing destination. I mean, Santiago and Visit Tampa Bay have put us on the map when it comes to just how attractive it is to come here. So a lot of these families make it a playcation of sorts where they get here a day early and they stay a day late, and they're not just married to staying right around the sportsplex. They want to take advantage of everything that is happening in downtown and West Shore and Plant City and other places as well. So I think it used to be in the old days, you would go to your kid's tournament and then a month later you could go on vacation. Now a lot of times you see, depending on how the economy is, you see those being combined.
good point.
Yep. Sorry, John?
Hey, Ken.
Yes, sir.
This is Joe Collier. If I could speak to this just for a second. So we, as I think a lot of people know, we were looking at this indoor sports complex in Tampa not many years ago, but a while back in Hillsborough County. And unfortunately, we kind of zeroed in on an excess site that the airport authority had over by Danish Shores. And we studied it, we spent a lot of time on it, and unfortunately the Danish Shores neighborhood kind of lit us on fire, and we ended up not doing the deal there. Pasco County, as Ms. Fagan sitting there knows, invited me up to Pasco County, and we ended up doing the project in Pasco County up at Wesley Chapel. So we know firsthand, we ultimately built 100,000-foot indoor sports complex at a complex called Wiregrass Sportsplex. And then we ultimately built a 128-room Residence Inn with a rooftop bar attached to the facility. So we know firsthand what these things will draw. And by the way, no offense to Pasco, but they don't have the sports marketing machine that we have in Hillsborough County at all. As a matter of fact, they reach out and ask for help from Rob and his team all the time. So I'd be happy to help. We firsthand know what these things generate in terms of room nights, what they do in terms of catalysts for other hotel projects, et cetera. It certainly moved the needle in Pasco County. Now, they did it a little bit differently. They war-chested $25–30 million of bed tax money and had it sort of saved up. And then they used it to plunk down and, build the facility. And then the private sector, me, stepped in and we built a Residence Inn attached to the complex. So happy to help. And, these projects, they generate room nights. And with Rob's team in charge and Eric running the bricks and mortar, it's an outstanding package. And I hope we can get this done.
Thanks, Joe.
Mr. Chair, one comment. This is Lou Placencia. I just want to echo the ancillary benefits to this. It's not only hotel room nights, but it's also restaurant spend. It's guest spend in other areas. I was at the zoo with family this weekend, and we ran into a group of soccer players. And I asked them what club they were with, thinking that they were local folks, and they were actually here for a soccer tournament from Raleigh, of all places. I'm grateful not to have to jump in the car or jump on a plane and go to other venues. We're keeping our money here locally, and we're also attracting families. It's not only the players and the coaches, but it's also parents and grandparents and other family members that are joining, and they're spending money at places like Outback and fast food restaurants and Busch Gardens and other attractions. So thank you, Rob, for everything you've done to bring this business here and the impact that it's had to our community.
Great, Joe.
Okay, thank you. If I can have this presentation up, please. Good morning. As Greg mentioned, I'm John Muller. I'm the Director for Facilities and Real Estate for Hillsborough County. Some of you I've obviously met before, but for those who haven't, that's who I am. Okay, let's start with the potential sites for the indoor facility. As a reminder, you can see that the recommended size for this was 174,000 square feet. That's 4 acres alone, which means for a new site, we were looking for up to 15 acres of land, unless we were part of a larger site where we could hook onto parking, which would take that down to, we think, 6 plus or minus. The cost for that was estimated for the full bill was just under $70 million. We looked at 18 potential sites. We took a final look at 3 areas: West Shore, the county's Mosey site, and adjacent to the 15 Grassfield TSA Tournament Sportsplex on Columbus Drive. So looking at the Columbus Drive option first, we are suggesting, and we did suggest not to the board to not pursue this further. It was attractive. We own the land. There were shared operations potentially with the sportsplex, but really, given the parking and traffic considerations that could impact the ability to support simultaneous use of both indoor and outdoor sports at the same time, we again have recommended not to pursue it. This area, quite frankly, we're expanding our emergency operations in the area, for those who don't know, which actually works out well for the sportsplex because we're putting a warehouse with a large laydown area. So the other 300, and let's hope it's all 365 because we don't want a hurricane, but Mr. Hart will make full use of that parking area. So strategically and long term, we're investing in that, but it's also an investment in being able to support better events out there with parking, which is the first experience. West Shore option. So it was a consideration that was actually brought to the county by the hotels in the area. We do recognize it does have one of the highest, of the higher concentrations of supply in the area. However, to date, a location hasn't been defined, nor have the really the long-term guarantees of funding from a proposed special district. That hasn't been formalized yet. So we don't want to eliminate this. The option is still viable out there, but really we need a formal proposal to vet that. And given all of what I've said, we really would need that, quite frankly, soon. Given that land acquisition would be involved in this option, it appears to be the longest one to get it off the ground. So that brings us to the Mosey option. So we did take a deeper look out there. TSA came out there as well, specifically to see what they thought of a potential linkage to the proposed redevelopment that the county's doing. They do see an interest in a facility that could link to Mosey, obviously support hotel or hotels on the site. And the site, quite frankly, could be a catalyst. The indoor could be a catalyst for the new development, as well as provide a much-needed boost to the Mosey Science Center with increased visitation. In one proposed concept, we're considering the existing 2 bottoms of our existing Mosey West building could be rebranded and actually become the event, retail, conference, concession space, which the indoor sports facility is proposed to have. This could lower the new construction amount by about 40,000 square feet. Traffic improvement, internal parking, most likely structural parking at that site would be key points of consideration and alignment and coordination with any future development of the entire site. So before I turn it back over to Greg, I just want to just touch briefly. Part of our assignment here was also to look out in the future for an outdoor sports facility as well. We do have this would be one that was focused primarily on baseball, softball. We do have an identified location in East County, just a few minutes of I-4, I-75 intersection. It does need a land assemblage of a minimum of about 70 to 77 acres. Where we're looking, there is some interest. So I don't want to dwell on this one as much today. We would need some road improvements in there. We're going to continue to look at this one, but quite frankly, what we would be looking at there would also be a land assemblage for that as well. So I'm going to turn it back over to Greg to cover our next steps.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Rob. So as you can tell, this is an exciting and unique opportunity, but one question we always ask at staff level is how do we pay for this? You could see from the slide, and I hope you've had a chance to review the PowerPoint presentation that you were provided, the tournament sports facilities line item was included in the renewed capital improvement tax program. So we do have that ability to include that as part of a funding source. We also have $2 million in BP funds that Chair Hagan had earmarked years ago for this type of facility, and the board did take direction. I'm sure the chair will tell you more about that as he has an opportunity to speak following our presentation. But we are looking to that to jumpstart some of the engineering design work that's necessary to be able to bring back a fully fledged proposal to our Board of County Commissioners. We have existing CIT revenue. There is debt service on that. However, every year, at least in the last few years, we've had a little bit of excess CIT dollars, so those funds could be available. Then, of course, we also have tourist development tax revenue. That is the primary source for building attractions that put heads in beds, and that is what we're talking about with this sports tourism proposal. Finally, once the development of Mosey occurs, we expect the additional ad valorem revenue to help support this facility, not just in the operations, but also in some of the ancillary uses that we need, like shared parking, structured parking. That's not just going to happen all by itself. We're going to need to participate in that. Again, want to just be really clear about what the county is willing to do. And finally, if West Shore is an option, of course, we would bring that back to our board and have that same value discussion with our board about what that proposal looks like and how that then compares to what we expect our costs to be on the Mosey site. I would say that the Mosey site, we believe at staff level at this point, would be the most cost effective and probably the fastest because we already have infrastructure on site. So we asked our board to consider designating Mosey as a site for us to continue working on. They did that. We need to work with the development team that the board is authorized to work with us on redeveloping the Mosey site. Part of that will be coordinating with city staff. We have had a number of good meetings with city staff about how we need to proceed forward, make this the showcase facility that we know the city would want and would want to admire. We also have that same desire. We want to make this really a first facility for the county and for our entire region. The outdoor facility, we're suggesting at this point, let's get the indoor one done. And let's then focus on what we have to do to get the outdoor facility a reality as well. With that, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. We do believe that this is an extremely unique opportunity for Hillsborough County. We look forward to the continued involvement of TDC as we flesh out this proposal and bring it back then to the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you for your time and attention.
Appreciate that, Greg. John, you need to add anything else? You good?
I have nothing else to add.
Okay. Just like you guys did last week, excellent presentation. I'm really excited about this opportunity to just kind of provide just some context to it. It was October 2012 when I presented 3 different tournament facilities to the BOCC and discussed as I said earlier, the benefits of not only economic but quality of life benefits of sports tourism. Being again a baseball, softball guy, I wanted to go in that direction, candidly. Rob, though, said, hey, what's needed the most is a tournament sportsplex that can host soccer, football, rugby, lacrosse. So we went in that direction. And as Rob indicated, that facility has been so successful, it's shattered all projections. So a few years ago, I brought back to the board the other 2 concepts, and I fully intend to pursue both before I'm done here. And again, you know, like the baseball, softball concept, but, well, let me backtrack. We opened the facility, rolled it out in 12. We opened it in, it was like the fall of 2018. And so a couple years after that's when I came forward again with the other 2. And so we did the feasibility studies on both. And we just have we believe, a rare opportunity at the Mosey location because not only is it county-owned land and there are other advantages to that location, but it's going to be the catalyst to accelerate the overall Mosey development that I think is probably the most transformative development or redevelopment project Hillsborough County's been involved in. We know there's going to be a hotel and a studio / black box theater, but other than that, it's open to, what the market suggests and what should go there. But I think I'm really excited when you think about USF and new stadium and the hotel and their development of the golf course. That area is going to be remarkable. So I'm thrilled about it. I think we're going in the right direction. Again, the door is open because I was intimately involved with Joe back in the day to try and do the indoor adjacent to the Aviation Authority property. In fact, I don't know if Joe remembers this, I was working with Derek Jeter's agent who wanted to do a legacy project with Derek Jeter, and we were going to have it a combined project, and they would have put skin in the game, and just wasn't meant to work out at the time. But we have a real rare opportunity here, and I'm excited about it. So, we, as Greg indicated, I had set aside $2 million of BP dollars years ago that is available specifically for design of an indoor facility. So we had the funding to start that process, and that's what the BOCC authorized last week. So with that, any questions? Mayor Ross?
Well, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd just like to echo our support on behalf of the City of Temple Terrace for the Mosey site. I think I personally, well, I think I'm not the only one, but I think for the next 5 or 10 years, that area of Hillsborough County, Tampa, Temple Terrace, USF is going to be, I think, the next big thing. I think there's been tremendous success downtown in the urban core and the Water Street and Channelside and the Riverwalk, and there's more to come, I know, and all of that in the core of Tampa is good for everybody in the county, whether it's, I firmly believe that those benefits filter out to everybody. But I think that region up there has a lot of potential, particularly for this application. I think this fits well as part of the redevelopment for a number of reasons. That area offers some things that the rest of Tampa doesn't have. There's a lot of opportunity for ecotourism up there. Obviously, I live in Temple Terrace, and my wife and I like to do things outside. We go hiking, biking, canoeing, and all of that is either up in that sector, Morris Bridge, Flatwoods, Cypress Creek, or you go down to South County to Alafaya. And so there's a lot of opportunity for that. And then you couple that with the construction of the football stadium, and as well as the existing sports that already exist on USF's campus. There's a lot going on there now. It's not just football. There's all kinds of stuff. And so I think all of that working together, in Temple Terrace, we have a downtown redevelopment project that's going to involve the construction of a riverfront park, kind of our version of a Curtis Hickson Park that's already underway. So there's a lot of energy going on up there. That area has been difficult over the last decades to kind of redevelop because there's so many people. Hillsborough County touches that, Tampa touches it, Temple Terrace touches it, USF touches it, DOT touches it because Fowler Avenue is the spine. And I think you finally have some alignment for all those entities to kind of pull together and work on things a little, not that they didn't get along in the past, but I think we've kind of reached a point in our evolution where we're more able to accomplish these things together. And so I'm fully supportive and excited about the Mosey site. I'm glad to hear that you are too, because I don't have much of a voice in this. But I would like to propose, and I've been in discussions with some of you already, but I would suggest that those of us from the different government agencies come together and maybe have some quarterly discussions about an overarching strategy for how we'd like to see that region develop. Certainly, you and I have some skin in the game, but then DOT does also, and so does USF, and so does the county. So I think if there is an opportunity to improve what's going on, I think perhaps it's kind of a get-together to say, what do you want this to look like in 10 or 15 years, and what do you want it to look like in 10 or 15 years, and how can we better collaborate? And I think there's an opportunity to probably do a little better with that. So thank you.
No, well said, Mayor Ross. Any other questions or comments?
To touch on the restaurant aspect, because in many of our units, we can't see necessarily if they're traveling, but when I'm at the Columbia Cafe downtown, when it's the group of cheerleaders or the group of volleyball players, it is so obvious why they're here. And I can't agree with Rob anymore that families, if they're traveling for a sports event, they're going for just be a wonderful addition to our community and attract more of those teams.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes, sir. Mr. McEnroe.
Well, thank you for all your work on this. And I would say that there is a lot more business that comes that we call it around the block groups, that we see that business that filters through all the avenues. But I'd also encourage you to look at tapping onto some of the resources that the hotels generate, even if it isn't in that submarket. You know, if you build a facility in Mosey, they're going to stay downtown. So there's definitely opportunity maybe for some TMD money to help support those facilities, even if it's not right in their backyard, if it's not in West Shore, because we're all going to benefit from it. So,
Good point. Okay. Thanks, guys. Great job.
Thank you, members. We very much appreciate your time and attention. We're excited about this opportunity.
Okay, Ron. Proposed budget.
Yeah, if I could. Turn to the next tab, which is labeled budget. And we'll save Santiago for last, but I wanted to go ahead and walk through the budget because of its importance and timing. So you see on the first page here, I have 3 exhibits, and I also sent you all a previous email that profiled this information. But this is the format we've used historically to discuss our decisions about TDT funding and programs and partners. And so I want to walk through those with you. As I mentioned in a summary, there are just a few key areas I want to highlight because we've been so successful with the partners that we've designated here over the last few years as standard partners, and also programs. The old adage, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think we've got a good thing going here, and as evidenced by the performance in the marketplace. But Exhibit 1 is the 3 cent, and so it shows you the net 3 cents that's allocable to the projects and programs that we've identified. And you'll see it goes from Tampa Bay CVB, the Sports Commission, and the Film Commission as standardized partners with the tourist plan. And then down through the high-impact film incentives, the county sports complex, as we've talked about, and we also made a decision to allow for some of the TDT funds to be used for physical capital improvements that are necessary out there. The business branding or Make It Tampa Bay program that we've briefed you on in the past, and then the recent one that we added the last 2 years that we obviously intend to recommend that we continue is the corporate transit demand branding program, the visitor experience, and out-of-area marketing. The most significant change that I've proposed here is in the category of the high-impact events. So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4th line down. And you remember we had a discussion about seeding incentives associated with various high-impact events. We probably let Rob, well, Rob's still with us, so you can always call on him. But the success that we've had with the various sports events and activities, but also with Eric Hart and his team at the stadium, has proven very successful. But it does require incentives to play in that game. And so in discussions with Rob and Eric and Santiago, we've decided, proposed to an increase about double of what we had in that line item for last year. But I think it's merited given the successes and also what is anticipated in the pipeline in the next few years. I'll remind you, anytime we don't spend a particular line item, it drops to the reserves of the TDT. So we don't lose the funding. It falls into the reserves itself. So in a particular year, if we don't need those level of incentives, we'll still be able to capture them should we need to pull them back up out of reserves. That's the primary one. We've continued the other programs. As I've mentioned, the corporate transit and group demand report that Santiago's team has shared with us gives me great comfort in recommending to you that we continue to fund that specific program as well. So, as I have mentioned in our correspondence, the program partners, I anticipate consistent with our past partners in our programs, with a noted exception of the high-impact events that I think we should increase a little bit. If you will, I'll go on and go through all three exhibits, and we can come back and answer any questions. Exhibit 2, the next page, is just a breakout. So it's a smaller breakout of the out-of-area marketing and visitor centers. Our visitor centers partners, Ybor City and Plant City, are very important to us as well, in addition to the visitor center that Visit Tampa Bay has under their purview. We've done a couple things here. They're small dollars, but they're important to them. We've increased the line item for physical improvements so that both our Ybor and our Plant City locations can continue to upgrade their visitor center venues so that they can be more meaningful and impactful for our visitors that come through that area. And so you'll see we increased the physical improvements line item that can be shared by either Ybor or Plant City. And we've had discussions with the Plant City folks. And they have a very exciting plan to not only improve the chamber itself, but the visitor center. And of course, Mayor Kilton may have some comments about that. Under out-of-area marketing, these are our other stalwart partners, Straz Center, and the Tampa Trio, the Aquarium, Mosey, and the Zoo. And the last cycle, which we recommend to continue, is a co-op with our other museums as well. So in each of these cases, they're at least held steady with the last 2 years, if not a few extra dollars associated with them. And then if I could, I'd just ask you to turn to the last exhibit, Exhibit 3. Exhibit 3 is the 6th cent. And so you'll see the allocation, net allocations up at the top of that page. And we have still 3 primary recipients of the 6th cent. The Visit Tampa Bay marketing component, which when the Board of County Commission approved the 6th cent, they designated 30% of that to go to Visit Tampa Bay for additional marketing support. So that's built into it. As I've mentioned before, we have a relationship with the City of Tampa on the Convention Center expansion. It's a one-to-one match, and we're very, very supportive of that. And so that $2 million goes to the city as a matching fund for their debt requirements associated with the latest Convention Center expansion. And then we have the cultural and attraction-based capital. As you may recall in the last meeting, these are the 7 primary tourism and cultural facilities in our community. We've made them a designated applicant group for this, and they can make applications for capital improvements. These tend to be kind of pay-as-you-go. They're not going to be 30-year bonded capital projects, but they're and we've structured it to have 1, 2, and 3-year asks associated with it, $500,000, $1 million, or up to $1.5 million. And so, that we would like to keep. I will suggest that we can look at this line item based on historical applications. I want to meet with each of the 7 again, look at the future for them. If there is an opportunity within the existing budget to assist on the indoor sports facility, particularly planning and design, we might could allocate some funds out of this and not harm the actual program. And I'll bring back some discussion about that in the August meeting as well. So that's quick, but wanted to open that up for any questions that you might have on any of the 3 exhibits. But those are my recommendations for the budget for the FY26 and 27, it's hard to say those numbers, fiscal year TDT budget.
Any questions, comments, Mr. McEnroe?
Yes. What kind of growth do you have factored in for the
Thank you.
26?
Glad you reminded. So the so basically from 20, I've got to go from 25 to 26. And so you look at the current year-to-date 17%. My expectations is going to trend down. So I use 12% for the 25 to 26 to establish the base year. And then I used 6% and then 5%.
Mayor Ross?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a question, Mr. Barton, on Exhibit 2. The last line on the bottom, museum co-op. So my first question regarding that is, how many museums are included in that co-op?
Trying to remember.
At least
Do you
3 or
remember?
4 that I can think of.
Three. I'm getting the high
Okay.
sign from Visit
Okay.
Tampa Bay. Three.
I was guessing 3 or 4. I'm just
Yeah.
from thinking of what's around. So how is this, can you kind of walk us through how this calculus is conducted? Because you divide 125,000 by 3, and are we, is this based on annual visitation and,
Yeah.
where people go? Or, because it doesn't seem like that amount, I mean, it's beneficial to a museum, but it's not really
So I might
impactful.
ask either Santiago or Jolene to come up and help a little bit, but basically, this isn't a check to our partners to let them market it. It's a matching fund where they can leverage Visit Tampa Bay's marketing capability on their behalf. So that's a little bit different animal if you think about it. So it's a cooperative sharing of marketing resources between Visit Tampa Bay and that museum, and we're seeding the museum's portion of it. But it's not for them separately to do independent marketing. And so that's part of it. Second is, because it needs to be somewhat targeted, it can't just be generic, come to Tampa Bay, the opportunities to use that in a focused way are a little more restrictive. And so we found, for instance, I think in this last year, that funding amount was adequate based on what they were able to place. And so we truth test it with the previous year's performance. I don't know if Jolene or Santiago want to say anything else, but that's the basic framework. So it isn't a check to them to market.
Good morning, if I may. Normally, when we're doing campaigns that they find that might be impactful because they have some new exhibit, for example, the big dinosaur at the Children's Museum comes to mind, Big John, and we're advertising either in-state or out-of-state, we leverage their dollars to really push people coming to the destination to go visit Big John at the Children's Museum or whatever other exhibition might be going on of interest at any of those facilities, whether it's a Tampa Bay History Center with hidden immigrants, or we're talking about the new planetarium out at Mosey. We leverage those dollars with our dollars to have maximum impact for those facilities out of the area. We always advise that they spend their limited marketing dollars in county, in town, because we're not able to do that, so we really use their assets and those dollars to continue to market them outside of the MSA.
And if I didn't convey the mechanism, we don't contract with them. We fund it through Visit Tampa Bay, but we have specific line items, and they negotiate those partnerships because we think they're the best to do that, not us. And so just so you understand the kind of the mechanism in which we created these partnerships. And we did that about 6, 7, 8 years ago, where it was independently done. And we felt we weren't using the full leveraged capability of Visit Tampa Bay to benefit each of these institutions. And so bringing them into a cooperative discussion, and they get together at the beginning of each fiscal year in an aggregate, not just individual, and talk about what are their needs, what are the best ways to deploy funds that benefit them. And so it's really been, I think, an infinitely better marketing mechanism than we used to have like 7, 8 9 years ago. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
And since Santiago mentioned Mosey, they're having a Taylor Swift show there tonight. It's supposed to be pretty nice. Wish my daughter would be there, except she got her final exam tomorrow. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, Lou Placentia with a
Do we need
question.
any action on this?
I would ask for approval of the budget.
Okay. Can we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Manthe.
I'll second it.
Second, Ms. Gonzmark Williams. No other comments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries unanimously. Okay, last item, Santiago.
Well, good morning again. I, like Rob, would like to thank all of you for your support, not only in this boardroom, but what you do for us every day out in the community, whether you're advocating for us, or you're helping us with room blocks, or you're helping us with familiarization visits. Thank you so very, very much. And I really want to single out Mr. Barton. He puts a lot of thought into these budgets. He connects with members of my team, not with me specifically, but with members of my team that administer some of these programs to find out how these programs are doing, what the projected growth might be. So the presentation gets done, but there's a lot of work that goes on prior to that presentation happening. So I want to thank Mr. Barton for being so thoughtful. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Rob and Eric. We've been together for some time. And we really work together in a very, very harmonious, symbiotic way to make these things happen. So I would go on record as saying that what was presented, we'd be very, very supportive of. I was thrilled to hear hotel properties because Mayor Castor, in a very, I think, diplomatic or delicate way, asked, do we have, I think she was thinking, do we have the hotels to accommodate all of this future growth and all of these future events? So the fact that we're talking about some properties up in that area with what's happening at USF that Mayor Ross already mentioned, and the potential that that area has. And I'll give you a very short story, because I know we're winding this meeting down and I'm on the tail end. We love engaging with our hotels countywide. You know, one of the criticism that I heard early on, now 12 years ago, I just celebrated my 12th year anniversary with Visit Tampa Bay, was that we were hyper-focused on downtown and West Shore, and that the fringes really didn't get a lot of our attention, and we worked really, really hard to address that. So I got an invite to a grand reopening of a Hampton Inn and Suites off of Fletcher, right before it turns into Morris Bridge Road off of 75, and I said, that's on my way home. I'd love to connect with the folks up there, so I'm going to stop and say hi and talk to them. And I can tell you that what Rob was saying, I got to witness that night. They had generated the revenues to really redo the entire hotel. And the owner was there with the GM. And as you'll see in my numbers today, I said, you must be thrilled, because I know what the occupancy rates are in this part of town, and you guys are in the 80s, and I'm sure that you're reinvesting because you have all this revenue that's coming in. And they looked at me like I had 3 eyeballs. And I thought, oh, did I say the wrong thing? Was I too presumptuous with the 80%? And the owner said, you know, I have a number of hotels throughout the state, and this is the best performing one, and it's not in the 80s, it's in the 90s. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, look around. We have business transient, because we have all those corporate office parks there. We have folks from the VA, from Moffitt, that are coming here. And oh, by the way, look at these cheerleaders, because you all are hosting a big cheerleading competition. So that compression out was actually even reaching one of our farthest parts of the county where we have hotel properties. So having said that, back to the mayor's point, we have countywide a little over 26,000 hotel rooms. Believe it or not, that number has probably increased since I started 12 years ago by a little over 2,000 hotel rooms, because we gain and we lose. I mean, we lost a property up in North Tampa, the Quality Inn and Suites that was across from University Mall. We lost that property. We lost the DoubleTree down in West Shore. So we gain some rooms, we lose some rooms. So we're actually hovering around that 26,000 room night number. And when you're sitting in the 80s and 90s as far as occupancy, it's tight to find room at the end. So I would say that yes, for sure on the Sportsplex up in on the Mosey property makes all the sense in the world, and we track economic impact beyond the hotel rates. And so the technology now is so sophisticated that we can track credit cards, we can track cell phones, and then we have third parties that aggregate that for us as far as total economic impact. And we're talking about sales tax, education tax. In fact, we're really close to the school board these days because we're generating through tourism quite a bit of education tax for them to get their things done throughout the county. So again, thank you to all of you. Thank you to Rob and Eric. If we could have my presentation on. Next slide, please. I'll go through this very, very quickly. Second quarter performance was, as Ron, Mr. Barton has already attested to, just phenomenal. In fact, you'll see here a comparison between us, Florida, and the U.S., and we get data all over the place. You'll see it here shortly of the top 25 major markets in the country. January through April, the highest occupancy rates of the top 25 large markets. We've hit 6 consecutive months of over $100 million in hotel taxable revenue. Prior great was 4 months. We've hit 6, and I'm going to go on record and hedge my bets that we're going to see a 7th, because I have the preliminary numbers for April, and April hotel revenue was up over 11% compared to last April, which was a stellar month. So every month of our fiscal has been a record setter, so we're very, very proud. Next slide, please. If you look at year-over-year occupancy for the second quarter, let me remind us, the second quarter for us is January, February, March. First quarter is October, November, December. So second quarter, you see collectively there what our occupancy rates look like compared to the prior 2 years. Next slide, please. Average daily rates, very, very nice bump. So that contributes to the $100 million months that I've been talking about. All three in this quarter were over $100 million in hotel taxable revenue. So as we know, average daily rates and the tourism tax go kind of hand in glove with occupancy. So next slide. If we look at revenue per all available rooms in Hillsborough County, also trending in the right direction with the other two key performance indicators. Next slide. Revenue. There we go, right? I just said 3 months, $100 million over. In fact, for the 7 months of the fiscal year, we're over $700 million. And if you all remember, the benchmark for the state to be a high-impact tourism is $600 million in a calendar year. Well, this fiscal year, in 7 months, we're well over $700 million in hotel taxable revenue. Next slide. And I love this slide because we love to see all 4 of our submarkets doing very, very well. And so this is countywide by submarket, and you can see those occupancy numbers over 80%. And I always like to say that's 8 out of every 10 rooms is being occupied. And in some cases, like I shared with the Hampton Inn and Suites up on Fletcher, 9 out of 10 rooms being occupied. So the numbers are very, very good. The revenue numbers coinciding with the occupancy numbers, just a great story. Next slide, please. And now we get to occupancy. This is our convention comp set. You see for quarter 2 that we were leading the pack, not just by a little bit, but by a nice percentage amount compared to the second destination in that comp set. Next slide, please. We'll show a different set. That's the leisure comp set. And you see some other cities that are thrown in here: Jacksonville, Savannah, Fort Myers, Atlanta, Asheville. And you see that in that grouping, we are number 1 in occupancy for the quarter. Next slide is our central business district comp set, and that's where these destinations, only their downtown concentric to their convention centers, are looked at. And in that set, we also led occupancy for the second quarter. Next slide. And since this is a mid-year examination, we look at how we're tracking through the 6 months of quarter 1 and quarter 2. And like Ron's graphs, you know, the image tells the story. Next slide. That's for hotel taxable revenue. Bed tax collections, obviously the 6% on that. You see that growth. growth. Remember, we used to say 30. We want to hit 30 and 3, 30 million in bed tax collections. In fiscal year, we're already over 38 million 7 months in, 6 months in, actually, because this is a 6-month performance. Next slide. And we just had our economic impact study done for last year, for 24. These are brand new numbers. Over 28 million visitors to Hillsborough County with a total economic impact of over $9.4 billion. That's all spending. Over 61,000 jobs. These are the biggest numbers we've seen since I've been doing this year over year. And our tourists are generating over $683 million in additional state and local taxes. And if we had to replace, if those visitors weren't here, each of our households might have to come up with about $1,200 to cover the spread that we see as far as state and local taxes. Next slide. So in the quarter, very busy. I'm going to fly through these. You have these in market, still buzzing, out of market, also still buzzing. We're doing a lot of leadership and relations managing through a lot of boards that we serve on. We can tell you what's happening at a federal level. I was on a federal level call yesterday. I can tell you what's happening at a state level. I was at a state meeting yesterday. So we're very engaged with the industry, not just here in Hillsborough County, but the state of Florida and, of course, the nation. Next slide. Partner updates. We have now close to 1,000 partners. I want to thank some of you in the room that are partners. The in-kind that we get, the partner referrals that we can push out, supporting small businesses when we have a big convention coming to town and they want a florist, or they want a restaurant, or they want an off-site venue, or they want transportation. We have a network of partners that we can direct them to. So again, great interaction with our partners, a program we're very, very proud of. And you see over $185,000 in-kind, which means that doesn't come out of our budget, doesn't come out of the TDT, doesn't come out of our private revenue. So again, we're very, very thankful and grateful to our partners. Next slide. And again, we were talking about the economic impact, not just the room nights and the hotel tax. Economic impact for groups that came during quarter two, over $88 million in actualized economic impact, 185 groups that we can track. There are lots of others that maybe we don't track, but that we can track, 185. And you see the estimated economic impact of just a handful of those on the board, because again, now we have a sophisticated technology system where we can track how they're spending and what they're spending on. Next slide is what we actually booked in quarter two for future years. So we got 150 groups that we booked during quarter two, estimated economic impact of over $102 million, and these can be all over the map. You see some there, 28, 29, 26, 2030. We've even got groups booked out to 2038 right now. So you see, you know, how far ahead of time some of these groups are booking or not. Next slide. I'll go through these. This is just us out there marketing at trade shows with partners. These are out-of-market events. We get testimonials from people that are meeting with us. Next slide. And again, these are examples of in-market activities where we're actually bringing people to our marketplace to see what we have to offer and to get them to sign a contract and book. So we had our big Gasparilla familiarization visit. You see that one in the top right. Those are folks that we want to get here during Gasparilla so they can sign a contract and book a group out as many years as they need to book. Next slide. And then obviously, our multicultural business development area also flourishing. You see a lot of their activities during the second quarter, whether it was engaged with Rob in the NCAA Women's Final Four, Alpha Kappa Alpha, Onyx Women on the Move. We just had this last month, Alpha Kappa Alpha, 7,000 plus sorority sisters in town. That's economic impact. So you see, again, our relationship with multicultural businesses and small business. Next slide. And of course, we had the new Michelin Guide reveal. We had 4 more restaurants added to the guide. All of our 1-stars kept their stars. All of our Bib Gourmands kept that designation. We have over 30 plus restaurants now in the guide. Next slide. And we still continue to market overseas, enhanced overseas. We're having to kind of monitor that depending on geopolitical situations. But this is a takeover of a match in Brentford at their stadium right outside Heathrow, where planes fly right over the stadium, and they're able to see these activations. So we do a whole lot with that football club, the Brentford Bees. Next slide. And of course, as part of that international flurry, we were the destination sponsor for the London Art Fair. So when you went to the London Art Fair, everything in and around the London Art Fair was visit Tampa Bay, including everything inside the London Art Fair, whether you were checking your coat or picking up a bag or watching us with some of our artists that we took over. In fact, we took our world-renowned Yala Ford with us, and our graffiti artist Dylan Perry did a number of activations. We were on panels. It's a small world, really. One of their artists there is working on some major public art pieces for here, for Tampa. So we actually got to visit the studio and engage with him on the panel. And, you know, obviously he was effusive with his praise of Tampa and the work he's done here. If you've ever watched the lit bridge between the Marriott Water Street and the JW Marriott, that's his work. And he's working on a nice piece for our convention center and a nice piece for the airport that we actually got to see in fabrication while we were there. Next slide. And here's a little video of that installation of the artwork at the fair. Very, very proud to partner with her. Almost done here. Next slide, please. See that one. Next slide. Now I'll do Brentford, but we also have a partnership with a club in Germany, the St. Pauli team. So we've done a number of activations at that facility, pushing those fans to come to visit us, especially when we have direct flights there, as well as Heathrow with Virgin Atlantic. Next slide. And obviously, lots in the news, whether locally, domestically, or internationally. Here's just a few shots. The next one, please. Again, for the quarter, 462 total articles, most of those non-paid, 40 familiarizations with the media, and 35-plus Visit Tampa Bay interviews just in the second quarter. So we've been very, very busy, and we're often asked for comment on a number of different things. And I believe we are close to the end here. Next slide. Yes, we are. So, Mr. Chairman, if there are any questions, I'd be very, very happy to answer them.
All right, thank you, Santiago. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions, comments on the quarterly activity report? If not, can we have a motion to accept the report? Motion,
So
Mayor
moved.
Castor. Second, Mr. Placencia. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries
Aye.
unanimously. Any other general discussion items? If not, we're adjourned.
Always good to see you.
Thanks, guys.